Hurricane Beryl heads for Jamaica after impacting the southeastern Caribbean, leaving at least 7 people dead. The United Nations confirmed that nearly 80% of the population of Gaza has been displaced following the last order of the Israeli occupation army in the south of the enclave, which is the largest evacuation since October. In Kenya, protests against economic reforms continue in several cities across the country, while police repression has left 270 people currently in custody. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Jamaica is getting ready for the impact of powerful Hurricane Beryl, which will hit the country around noon with potentially deadly winds. Prime Minister Andrew Holness asked the population to take this dangerous weather event seriously. Beryl is the third hurricane to plummet the island in 40 years, although it has degraded. The National Center keeps its category. The passage of storm through the eastern Caribbean has left at least 7 deaths and several missing, in addition to another 3 on the coast of Venezuela, where this effect caused heavy rainfalls, winds, and storm surges. The Jamaican Prime Minister informed that he got in touch with the leaders of the community of Caribbean states, where he was updated of the devastating capacity of Beryl. Jamaica has already closed airports, public offices, and schools.
CARICOM heads this morning, we were briefed on the destructive impact of the hurricane on our Eastern Caribbean sister islands. We expressed our solidarity and willingness to support, even as we make our own preparations. Jamaica must take this hurricane seriously. Early this morning, the Cabinet reviewed our plans to manage the threat of the hurricane, and a caucus of Parliament was also briefed on our state of readiness and the provisions for emergency response.
On Tuesday, Hurricane Beryl downgraded to Category 4 as it passed through the Caribbean on its way to Jamaica, but it still emerges as a dangerous threat for the area. Beryl left at least 7 people dead as it passed through the open waters of the Caribbean Sea. In the sense of the devastation in Grenada, the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell of that country reported that the death toll could rise in the island and in neighboring Cariachao, from which they have lost communication. On the other hand, St. Vincent and the Grenadines also reported on Monday the death of 1 person as a result of the hurricane, which reached Category 5 status. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, Beryl will remain a life-threatening hurricane as it passes over Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. According to information from the United States National Hurricane Center, Beryl is expected to begin to lose intensity, but will remain strong as it passes over Jamaica on Wednesday morning, near the Cayman Islands on Thursday, and near Yucatan in Mexico on Friday. Hurricane Beryl caused massive power outages, communication disruptions, and left several buildings without power and with varying degrees of destruction. The authorities reported 3 deaths in Grenada and Cariachao, and 1 more in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, while another 3 deaths were reported in North Venezuela, where 5 persons remain missing, and at least 25,000 people were affected by the heavy rains. In view of the situation triggered by a meteorological phenomenon, several Caribbean nations and various organizations such as CARICOM, the United Nations, among others, have ordered the delivery of humanitarian aid to the countries affected by Beryl. The Emergency Operations Center of the Dominican Republic maintains 24 provinces on alert. In this context, 2 provinces are in red alert, 15 in yellow and 10 in green, due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl, which was located about 410 kilometers south of the region. In addition, the agency urges the population to refrain from approaching the coast to observe the strong waves generated by the passage of Hurricane Beryl to avoid suffering damage from the debris thrown by probable waves. In other news, Cuba's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carlos Fernandez de Cosio, questioned on Tuesday an article published by the Wall Street Journal, which says that there are listening stations in Chinese military bases in Cuban territory. In June 2023, Fernandez de Cosio refuted another text of the Wall Street Journal which claimed that the island had allegedly reached a secret agreement with China to build a facility that would allow Beijing to spy on the U.S. In this regard, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba called the information of the U.S. media totally false and unfounded. On Tuesday, the Embassy of Russia in Venezuela informed the arrival of a detachment of ships of the Russian Navy's Northern Fleet in the Bolivarian nation. The diplomatic legation, through its X account, indicated that the frigate admiral of the fleet of the Soviet Union, Gorshkov, and the oil tanker Academic Pashin make up the military squadron. The Russian ambassador in Caracas, Sergei Melik-Bagdasarov, and representatives of the High Command of the Venezuelan Navy welcomed the detachment in the port of La Guaira. The ambassador said the visit of the Russian ships to Venezuela on the eve of Independence Day on July the 5th once again demonstrate the strong ties of the strategic partnership between the two countries.
Estos buques hermanos de la República Federativa de Rusia, quienes, bueno, en su paso por el...
These sister ships from the Federative Republic of Russia who come on their passage through the Caribbean are making a stop in our state of La Guaira, to rest, to share, to express with the crews of these ships their friendship, their solidarity, and of course their support to Venezuela.
Let's take now a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Those stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa declared a third state of emergency in 7 provinces of the country following an increase in violence in the nation. The executive decision aims to keep the military on the streets in the most violent areas of the country. However, experts warn that militarization would not be of much use if social measures are not adopted to reduce inequality and assure there are growing concerns among the excessive use of force in the fight against criminal groups. The decree enters into force immediately, but its future existence depends on the court's decision, which will be announced in the next few days. Peruvian justice entails second day of the oral trial against Keiko Fujimori, where the arguments of the prosecution and the others investigated in the cocktail case are presented. The Peruvian prosecutor's office reported that Fujimori would be responsible for heading a criminal organization and for having received more than $1 million to finance her campaigns in 2011 and 2016, amounts that were not declared to the state. In this regard, the public prosecutor's office requested at least 30 years in prison for the leader, as well as 15 years of political disqualification. The court affirmed that the following sessions of the trial will be extended on July 9th, 10th, 15th, 16th, 22nd, and 24th due to the 1,500 witnesses summoned to testify by the public prosecutor's office and the more than 40 defendants. The government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland intends to plunder at least 500 million barrels of oil in Malvinas Island, a territory sovereignty has historically been claimed by Argentina. According to an official government report published in the Telegraph, in order to move forward with the extraction actions, the British authorities are carrying out a legal consultation period with inhabitants of Malvinas. This process will last from June 24th to August 5th, 2024, and seeks the support of Malvinas people. London's claim on crude oil comes in parallel with pledges by the Labour Party, which according to the latest poll is leading ahead of the British elections on July 4th to ban new oil and gas exploration in British offshore territories. The United Nations confirmed that nearly 80% of the population of the Gaza Strip has been displaced following the latest order of the Israeli occupation army in the south of the enclave, which is the largest evacuation since October. In this regard, Stefan Dujarric, spokesman for United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, informed that the current evacuation of Han Yunis and Rafah covers almost a third of the Strip. pointed out that this new operation leaves thousands of people without any possible choice. On the other hand, the senior humanitarian and reconstruction coordinator for Gaza, Sigrid Kaag, told the Security Council that some 1.9 million Palestinians have been displaced from the enclave since October 7th. The chairman of Iran's Strategic Council for Foreign Relations, Kamal Jazari, warned on Tuesday that if the Zionist regime of Israel carries out a large-scale offensive against the Lebanon Islamic Resistance Movement, Hezbollah, this would lead to a war in the Middle East region. The official also stated the Islamic Republic is not interested in a conflict in the region and called for pressure from Washington on Israel, which would prevent an increase in tensions. To the question of whether Iran will support Hezbollah militarily, the Iranian diplomat replied that all Lebanese people, Arab countries, and members of the Axis of Resistance will support Lebanon against Israel. Also in Iran, the Guardian Corps announced that it is preparing for Operation True Promise 2 against the Israeli occupation forces. The commander of the airspace forces of the Iranian Islamic Revolution Guard Corps, Brigadier General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, assured Iran's support to the Palestinian people until the final victory over Israel is achieved. He also pointed out that Iran is in favor of the resistance and informed that they are waiting for the right moment for a new military operation called True Promise 2. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Kenya, protests against economic reforms continue in several cities across the country, while police repression has left 270 people currently in custody. In this regard, the largest and most complex protests took place in Nairobi, the country's capital. In the city alone, the number of arrests reached 204. The so-called C generation, who called for these protests, reject the economic reform proposed by the executive. According to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the last day of demonstrations left dozens of people arrested. Many of those arrested are accused of being suspected of being involved in alleged criminal activities. In this context, the protests that began on June 18th in Kenya against tax hikes have so far left 39 people dead and 361 injured. The National Human Rights Commission denounced 32 cases of forced disappearances and 627 arrests. The data corresponds to the period from June 18th to July 1st in the national territory. The Kenyan government plans to increase taxes to reduce the country's public debt. The announcement triggered a series of protests, including the storming of parliament, which stopped the executive from signing the law for the time being. Russian President Vladimir Putin's plane landed in Kazakh's capital of Astana to participate in the summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The Russian leader is expected to hold a series of important bilateral talks with the heads of the member states on the sidelines of the event. The summit of the regional organization will be held in Astana on July the 3rd and the 4th. Heads of states and government of Russia, Belarus, India, Iran, Qatar, China, Mongolia, Turkey, and other regional nations are expected to participate. The head of the Belarusian army and the defense minister of the European nation, Pavel Muravienko, denounced that at least 10 tactical groups of NATO battalions led by the United States are currently stationed along the Belarusian border. According to Muravienko, these NATO battalions consist of some 20,000 soldiers, 6 of them from the United States. Belarus has vehemently opposed this deployment, expressing grave concern about the presence of U.S. troops near its territory. The allegations about NATO cantonments come on top of others in which the Belarusian army claimed that Ukraine is deploying its forces on the common state border for possible sabotage terrorist actions. The Russian armed forces destroyed 5 Sukhoi 27 fighter jets of the Ukrainian armed forces in an attack launched against the Mirgorod airfield. The information was provided by the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, which said the fighters were destroyed during an attack with Iskander-M missiles systems in Poltava province. The government agency also informed that 2 other aircraft were damaged on the Ukrainian airfield during the attack, and that the Russian forces will continue a special military operation for the demilitarization of Ukraine and to protect the Donbas population from what it described as the Ukrainian genocide. On the other hand, members of Ukrainian armed forces claim that they were abandoned in the battlefield after the nationalist Kraken battalion left its positions in the city of Chasiv Yar. The Ukrainian prisoners said they were ordered to advance while the forces of the Kraken battalion defended their positions. However, they say that upon arrival, the nationalist battalion had abandoned the area after the Russian military seized some buildings in the city. Moving on to Copa America 2024, on Tuesday, Colombia and Brazil played to a 1-1 draw in front of 70,000 fans at Levi's Stadium in California to set up the quarterfinal round of the championship. Brazil opened the scoring through Rafinha, while Colombia equalized through Muñoz. With the tie, Colombia scored 7 points to secure the top spot in Group D, while Brazil remained in second place with 5 points. Colombia will play against Panama on Saturday at the State Farm Stadium in Arizona, while Brazil will have another difficult match that same day against Uruguay at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.